Two men bought a lion cub from a London department store. A year later, they set him free in Africa forever. Nobody expected what happened when they went back to say goodbye one more time. London, 1969. Two young Australians, John Rendall and Ace Bourke, had just arrived in the city, broke, adventurous, and completely unprepared for what they were about to do. Walking through Harrods department store one afternoon, of all places, they wandered past the pet department and found something impossible to ignore, a tiny lion cub, just 3 months old, sitting alone in a small cage. They sat with him for hours. By the end of the day, they'd made a decision most people would call insane. They bought him. They named him Christian, a little ironic considering the history of Christians and lions. And just like that, two young men with no experience raising wild animals became full-time lion owners in the middle of London. They brought him home to their flat on King's Road in Chelsea, where he quickly became something between a housemate and a giant, affectionate pet, following them around, playing, and somehow fitting into their lives like he'd always belonged there. As Christian grew, and grew fast, John and Ace moved him into the basement of the antique furniture shop where they both worked. Every single day, without fail, they'd take him out to a nearby private garden to run, play, and burn off energy. Christian became something of a local celebrity, a full-grown lion casually strolling through a London neighborhood, greeted by shopkeepers and curious neighbors who had somehow gotten used to seeing a lion around the block. But the two men knew something had to change. A lion, even a gentle one raised since birth, wasn't meant to live his whole life in a London basement. As Christian's instincts started to surface, his massive size, his growing strength, they understood they were running out of time to make the right decision for him, before his very nature made living in the city impossible, or dangerous, for everyone involved. That's when they met Virginia McKenna, star of the film Born Free, who connected them with someone who would change everything, wildlife conservationist George Adamson. Adamson had already spent years successfully rehabilitating lions back into the wild in Kenya, most famously with a lioness named Elsa. If anyone could give Christian a real chance at the life he was actually born for, it was him. In 1970, John and Ace made the incredibly difficult decision to fly Christian to Kenya themselves. After the long journey, they traveled another 200 miles into the African bush to reach George Adamson's remote camp at Kora Nature Reserve. This was it, the moment Christian would begin learning how to actually be a lion, hunting, socializing with other lions, surviving in the wild his body was built for, but he had never once experienced. John and Ace stayed for weeks, helping Christian adjust, watching him take his first uncertain steps toward wild lion behavior. It wasn't easy. Everything he knew about the world had come from two humans and a London basement. But slowly, with George Adamson's guidance, Christian began to change, becoming more confident, more instinctive, more like the animal nature had actually designed him to be. Eventually, the two men knew it was time to say goodbye and let him go completely. Almost a year passed. John and Ace had gone back to their ordinary lives in London, wondering constantly whether Christian even remembered them, or whether he'd fully become a wild lion with no memory of his old life at all. George Adamson warned them honestly, it had been so long, there was a real chance Christian wouldn't recognize them anymore. In 1971, John and Ace made the long trip back to Kora to see him one final time. As they approached the riverbank where Christian now lived with his own pride, they saw him standing in the distance, now a massive, fully grown, wild lion. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Christian looked up, and started running, straight toward them. What happened next was captured on camera, footage that would sit largely unseen for over 30 years before becoming a viral sensation worldwide. Christian leapt onto both men, wrapping his massive paws around their shoulders, nuzzling their faces, exactly the way he used to as a cub in a London basement. Two lionesses from his own pride cautiously approached and accepted the two men as well. A lion bought on impulse from a department store had grown up wild and free, in the heart of Africa, and somehow, after everything, he still remembered exactly who they were.